What is happening, Honey Badger Nation? This is John Kitchens, and man, welcome to episode 127 of Expert Mentors Live. And we've got the one and only Mr. Nick Good back on with us. What's up, Nick?
What's going on, man? How are you?
Doing fantastic, brother. Well, I really appreciate you kind of last minute just saying, making time and jumping in. And, as agents in the business, right? We've always just been kind of fascinated kind of what's going on with the market and try to, get some indication of where things are going and how we can be strategic moving in that direction. And you guys had a fantastic podcast on your podcast last week with Armando Montelago. And I was like, yeah, I got to get Nick on. I got to get his perspective. So I appreciate you making the time and jumping in.
Of course, bro. Yeah, anything I can do for our Honey Badger family.
Absolutely. So for our massive, ever-growing family, you were on an earlier episode of Expert Mentors, and I think the group has maybe doubled since you were on. So, man, for those that haven't had the opportunity to connect with you or listen to you or anything, man, if you wouldn't mind, just give folks a kind of a 2-minute background on yourself.
Absolutely. So I run a real estate team here in Dallas, Texas. We cover all of Dallas-Fort Worth as well as Houston. So if you're looking for that Dallas-Fort Worth and Houston referral connections, think of us first. And our team is prospecting based. I mean, I built my platform was built on Michael Reese and Jay Kinder's 2009 expired listings, and that's still today. Even though we're sucking wind right now and what we're going to talk about with inventory levels, expired listings is still one of our staples in our business. So we're prospecting based, internet leads, and then of course referral based businesses is starting to pick up. So we're all about just putting content out to the marketplace and becoming that true expert advisor in the Dallas-Fort Worth community.
Yeah, no, it's fantastic. You guys do put out fantastic content, and you share with everybody the podcast that they need to make sure they're subscribed to.
That's right. It's the only real estate podcast worth listening to. So I co-host that with 2 other agents who are not EXP members. Hopefully they will be in the future. But we were fortunate enough to have on former A&E reality TV star of Flip This House, Armando Montelago, on last week. We're going to have another real estate TV star coming on in January. So it's exciting. That shit's growing. Yeah.
And was what you were telling me is that he reached out to you to jump on the show. So that's
LinkedIn.
That's always cool.
LinkedIn is what we've been talking about. I know that Michael Reese, Kinder, Stasik's been talking about all the LinkedIn strategies, and there people reached out to me on LinkedIn and we set up that conversation within a week, and he was on that following week. So LinkedIn works.
Man, that's amazing. Good little nugget there for everybody listening in. What up, Matt? So share what, because I had asked, hey, how's business? How are things going? And right before we went live, and you were like, man, rocking, but I feel like the market is forcing us to slow down. Man, unpack that for everybody, because I think you just summarized how everybody's feeling and kind of what you guys are seeing as we're trying to navigate here through the end of the year into the first quarter.
Absolutely. I mean, so we've had, by the way, we've had our best year ever. Of course, I'm trying to pull it up here. I should have had that prepared. We've had our best year ever. We're up. I mean, business has been up, and so has our listings. Now, what's holding us back right now is that inventory levels in the Dallas-Fort Worth area have fallen at the end of November to 1.5 months of inventory, right? And so if that's all of Dallas-Fort Worth, that includes new construction and pre-owned. Now, if I break that down into the different counties that we service, I know that one of our agents works Tarrant County, which is out in the Fort Worth area. There is 1 month of inventory, or 0.9 months, right? So, what's holding us back right now is not, it's the lack of listings. We've got a huge buyer demand, and our pendings and our traction is suffering because of we've got sellers who don't want to go on the market because they don't know where to go, right? We can't place them into houses fast enough, or they're competing against multiple offers, so they're getting that buyer fatigue, and they're saying, you know what, F it, I'm done. I'm just going to wait until this. I'm going to sit this market out because I don't want to play this game.
Yeah, I mean, it's the frustration. It's what I'm seeing all across the country as well, working with agents. So there were some interesting statistics that jumped out at me on your guys' show, and so let's talk about some of the numbers and some of kind of what the landscape and what we're seeing versus what Armando had shared. And then let's maybe talk about, hey, what are some solutions? What are we trying to do to, find those opportunities? But, one of the things that he shared, and definitely want to get your perspective on this and your thoughts, was that he was talking about from a shadow inventory perspective. He was saying, hey, there's 9 months of shadow inventory, whereas compared to 2008, there were 2 years of shadow inventory. And then he made the comment in there that, hey, right now there are more REOs in waiting than there was 2008. And like, I was like, I don't know. Let's fact check that. Like, where's the data? I want to, Joe Rogan him. I want to be like, hey, pull up the statistics. I want to see that. So I know you had some thoughts on that, man. What are you seeing? What are you feeling?
I mean, if you go back and watch that show, and I posted it in the group, I disagreed with him, and he's like, look, we can agree to disagree. And I had just released a video out. By the way, I look at what keeping current matters, right? So what we talk about here and just looking at the data, first off, if there's 9 months of shadow inventory, I didn't believe the shadow inventory back in 08, 9, 10, when we talked about, when that was all saying, hey, shadow inventory is coming, shadow inventory is coming, it's coming, it's coming and coming. And then nothing came, right? There was investors buying the tape REOs, where you can go, that never hit the market, right? That may happen a little bit. We may see a little bit. There's always going to be that shadow, quote unquote, shadow inventory. We're always going to have people that are in default, financial distress, in some form or fashion of being in some type of foreclosure status. Now, what I looked at is I went back. Keeping Current Matters has this. It's the 3 graphs that proves that we're not headed into like this foreclosure crisis. And the thing that really stuck out to me and what I disagreed on is that the reason that we saw that huge foreclosure crisis in the upside down underwater homes is that in 2005, 2006, and 2007, we saw more homeowners doing home equity cash outs. And this was refinances in the billions, right? And correct me if I'm wrong, or someone can correct me if listening to this, is that we didn't have the cash out refinance standards that we do today. And so that they were pretty much taking almost all their equity out of their home. We can't do that anymore. If we go look at in Q1 through Q3 of 2020, it's just a hair above what the cash out refinances that were happening in 2001 and 2002. Homeowners are sitting on more equity today than they ever have. Now, what I think can happen is that if we put out the right message and we're looking for it, there will be some motivated sellers, but it's not in a true financial distress of a short sale or a foreclosure status. I think they may start falling behind on payments if they lose their job, depending on what happens in the economy. But they're going to have the equity to be able to sustain and to be able to cash out and then go into a rental. That's what I think is going to happen. Gotcha.
So, one of the things that I was kind of get your thoughts on this. So I had Nolly on Expert Mentors Live right before the pandemic, right before the shutdown. And he was talking about, to pay attention to, he gave his top 3 lead sources heading into 20, and obviously not knowing what was to come. And, he was obviously, hey, more attention on your sphere, old expireds. And then his third one was pay attention to the notice of defaults. And he gave a statistic of like in Tampa, that notice of defaults. And this is where I didn't push him to clarify his number, but he was talking about, hey, notice of defaults are up about 400% across the board. And then he gave an example in Tampa, but shame on me for saying, okay, well, what does that mean? Right. What number to what number and what's normal. And so I didn't get clarification on that, but if that's true, and then you go and you look at the other side of things, when CARES Act hit, that's up to a 12-month program that people could be taking advantage of not to make their payments. So if that is coming to an end here in the first quarter, going into the second quarter, what could that mean? What are your thoughts on that?
I mean, I'd like to see what I personally, and this is what we talked about on all of on the show with Armando, is that I personally believe, one, the government. This was a government created holdback, right? The government held back the economy, with the pandemic and everything else. And regardless of what you believe, I personally feel that elected government officials who are looking to get reelected, including this current new president-elect coming in, is not going to allow these defaults to happen. They're going to put incentive into place. Let's look at it this way, right? Again, the same article in Keeping Current Matters, 3 graphs that prove we're not headed to a foreclosure crisis. It talks about out of the 5.7, almost 5.8 million families granted forbearance, this is what happened, right? Upon expiration of the plan. It talks about in here that 44% have either paid off their mortgage or opted out of the forbearance program, right? And then it goes further that out of it, only about 80,000 of those people that went into that forbearance program was at the risk of moving into into that true foreclosure status. Now that's, if you go look at that statistically and take that out of all 50 states, I mean, 80,000 is a small number, right? And so look, there again, even in the best markets that we've had foreclosures. We've seen them.
Sure.
Right. We've seen short sales that happen. People that bought this year, people that may bought last year, the new construction communities, there's going to be that. If this is going to be your lead source and your focus, there are ways to still win and to make good money from it. You just it's just a tinier pool that you're fishing from, or that you're trying to drink from. There's going to be that. I just don't see it. Now, Armando talked about looking into, where from the investor viewpoint, and this is something that, I talked to my brother about, is that there are certain states or certain cities that may be second home states, like Las Vegas. I think he talked about some parts of Florida that may have a higher, there may be a higher potential to start seeing those delinquencies to start happening, those second home, those vacation style home states.
Yeah. Real quick on one number that he gave out, and I started testing it and looking at it in some markets, but is what he's saying is going to be released. Is that not just normal, what we would normally see as they start to let the machine start working again? And is that just normal? Like what we typically see? We were huge REO in Lawton. We had one of the largest accounts, and until it dwindled, right? Until, like you said, it's just such a small percentage of the business that it didn't make sense to give your energy and effort to it anymore. And there's always kind of a percentage of revenue that you want to pay attention to. And if it's less than like 10%, you probably don't need to be doing it. And so when it dwindled down for us, we just said, no, thanks. And so being able to pay attention to that, but the statistic that he gave out was, look for markets that have a median home price that is that's double digit, 10 to 11x of the median income. He said that's a threat. Well, I looked here in DFW, it's like only like 3.5 to 4%. So I was like, okay, well that doesn't apply here. But he did clarify, like you had said, he's, tourism areas, the blue states over the red states. And, that's just kind of what he was giving an indication to.
And think of it this way, right? When we look at these people, and agents included, right? So Armando is, what is he? Look, it's Armando Montalago Education Company, right? He's here to sell distressed programs, right? So, what he's going to do is I use this analogy the other day. If I walk outside every day with my umbrella open and people are like, dude, what is Nick doing? I'm like, well, eventually it's going to rain and I'm not going to get wet the time it does rain. Well, I'm going to look ridiculous every day until it actually rains and be like, see, I told you it was going to rain. I'm not getting wet. Everyone else says you weren't prepared for it.
Yeah.
So I just look at the true stats here, and I look at also, the way the government is operating. Logically speaking, you have to throw logics out the window when it comes to this type of pandemic, this type of what we're in right now, and then look at it. Look at the numbers, right? So this, again, the third graph from the Keeping Current Matters, the distributions of loans in active forbearance by current combined loan to value. 91% of homeowners that went in loan forbearance have at least 11% equity in their house or greater.
Yep.
So I'm going to tell you right now, I flipped houses. We picked up rentals. I have close to somewhere maybe 300 of them around that, right? I'm going to tell you right now, I did not buy any flip opportunities this year. I wholesaled one deal that was it was before the pandemic hit, right? And you're scrounging for peanuts if that's what you're looking for. Again, if that's the direction you want to go in, you can make money. I just think it's a little bit of I think that effort versus return may be a lot higher.
I would have to agree 100%. We were chatting about this one statistic that I had read and had seen it somewhere. I can't remember where it was, but they said, that, as it pertains to agents, is that there's more licensed agents in the United States right now than there is active inventory. And we kind of I've been pressure testing it, right? Everybody I'm talking to, I'm like, hey, what's inventory and then what's agents in every market except for Lawton. Lawton's always the exception, but Lawton is close, right? There's 180 active licensed agents in Lawton, Oklahoma, and there's only 220 active listings. So, Lawton's always the good indicator. So I know when that's that tight, I'm like, ooh, boy, man, the rest of the country's in pain. So, knowing that to be true, and just like you said, you guys are kind of slowing, kind of a forced slowdown, and being prospect driven, you see a lot of data. Like you guys, contact records data, you're like one of the perfect people to talk to when it comes to, where is the opportunity? What are you guys seeing? What, where is the opportunity? How are we trying to navigate through such a shortage of inventory in the marketplace?
That's the $1 million question right now. I mean, look, part of it is going to be cyclical. I mean, this is one that I'm educating our agents on, right? We're freaking out a little bit where we're like, all right, look, the pandemic hit in March. We took 31 listings that month, right? When shelter in place and everything else. And we went up. And then as the holidays and COVID started getting way out of hand, we started to see that pull back in the number of people wanting to sell. Right now, it's not 100%. If we can set the appointment, great. But right now it's all about the nurture and about the follow-up, right? So this is building our database, adding more people to it, and then educating them right now. We have, at the end of November 2020 here in Dallas-Fort Worth, there were 16,125 total homes for sale across all of the North Texas board, right? That's small. And that includes new construction that's listed on the MLS. And take that into, I went back 10 years to see January of 2003, there was 15,040 homes for sale. So 2003, we didn't have that huge relocation demand. We weren't the hot spot for all these headquarters coming here. And now we've got 16,125 and everyone's wanting to move here. There's a roadblock being set up that we just have to comb through, and we've got to do the old school tactics that eventually will phase out, but it's going back to the circle prospecting. It's going back to direct mail marketing. It's spending more money on online home evaluation, ads for sellers. I am pulling back my buyer lead gen spend and putting it all into seller home evaluations just to build up the nurtures, because that will pay off in 6 to 12 months. So I'll take the loss leader right now, and in 6 to 12 months, as long as we're following up, providing the right value, and touching them correctly, that will have a positive ROI.
Yeah, I agree 100%. I think that's fantastic. The way you're looking at it. What's the message to market? I mean, obviously you're hitting home eval. Is there a cash offer type type of approach into your direct mail? Like what's going to be the call to action on the direct mail?
I'm still tweaking it. I was running cash offers. That's not the problem, right? I mean, we're running into more people that they're getting hit up by agents, and agents are coming up with tactics that we're seeing more people, if they're going to sell, they're going to go for sell by owner. So what we're trying to do is just build an inventory list. If you're going to go for sale by owner, we need to, are you willing to pay us 3% commission? Are you willing, if we bring you a buyer and you're willing to cut the mess, will you pay us 4% if it's just everything together, right? Because here's the thing, if we can still place our buyers, right, and make that 4% or whatever that is, we're just trying to find solutions right now to satisfy these seller buyers, these buyers that are getting frustrated. So right now it's building up our hit list of people that say, all right, if you bring me a buyer, et cetera, and just categorizing those people. If they're hot to trot and ready to go, we need to know John, what are you willing to take right now? Can we go push that out to our database? And even if we don't have that active listing, we know that they're willing to pay us 3 or 4% commission. And can we bring those people in? Right now, it's building your arsenal of contact information, and then do the hard work in 2021 of just reaching out, texting, putting videos, and then running retargeting campaigns to become that true expert advisor.
I love that. Are you like with the team, are you throwing any measurements around, hey, we need to get to X number of nurtures in our pipeline heading in, or we need to get there as fast as we can? Do you have any type of measurements that you're trying to lead with?
Not yet. I would love, if you have some insight from what you're hearing, I would love to hear. That's what we're trying to feel out. Again, this is something that's we've never seen this low in the last 2009, September 2008. There was 15,947 homes for sale. That was the last time we've had homes, this lack of inventory. And it was, what is that? That's 12 years. Right, 12 years before we've experienced this kind of low. So no, I will say that in 2015, I built a call center that was only outbound prospecting based. Each caller working 4-hour shifts was averaging 8 nurtures a day. I had 9 of them at my high point. So what is that? 9 times 8, is that a 56? 50? What is that? 56, 57?
72.
72, yeah. So 72 nurtures a day.
Yeah.
Right. 2016, that became our number 1 lead source.
Bro, I think you might have just solved the riddle, right? Getting back into that type of focus, because now, I think, for us in the call center, and if Alex is paying attention, he can chime in the conversion percentage. But I know we were trying to get to 600 for each of the ISAs in their nurture bucket, and with clear definition, right? Motivation, timing, the willingness, and they want us. They're okay if we stay in contact with them, and just that bullet point, whatever that criteria is. But I think it was once at 600, we knew that their buckets was going to turn out about 10% over the next 12 to 18 months.
Yep.
So that was kind of our statistic. That's what we were looking to. And so, if you don't have a nurture strategy and what you're doing to build that nurture bucket, I think that's got to be the play heading into the new year for sure.
And I think it can be done online. I'm going to tell you, I prefer not to rebuild the call center back out, just because the effort, energy, time, and the type of people that attracts. A lot of pain. a lot of pain. So what we're looking at doing, I'm looking at implementing that, the home seller, home value strategy, and then combining that with like a HomeBot AI tool. I know that Kevin Kaufman and Fred Weaver use that pretty well, and it's a pretty accurate tool. Because in 15, what we would do is we would have all that same criteria that you guys had at the call center with Alex, and then we would put them on a market snapshot. Now, the problem with market snapshot is it was flawed, and if it would send out if your home was worth 500,000 and it wasn't properly, market snapshot wasn't done properly, it would say that your home was worth 300, and now we look like a fool, and now we're working even further behind to try to build that trust and rapport. So if anybody's going to use something, something more automated and technology based, look into HomeBot.
Yeah, I love that. And you nailed it, man. The nurture process is all about building trust. And being genuine, being authentic, being real, being honest times time, builds that trust. So as you're thinking through what are your touch points, what are you putting in front of them that has the mixture of professional relevance, which is accurate market data that they can see, get a gauge of actual comparison, and then what's some personal, right? What's relevant to them. And I think about here, we live right on the border of Prosper and Salina, right? We're in Prosper ISD, but we're in Salina. I don't care when they say, hey, what's going on in Prosper, or hey, here's what's going on in Salina, but I do care what they're saying about Light Farms, right? What they're saying about, the immediate subdivision that I live in. So if, for me, I'm like, so what's going on with the home values here? Let me pay attention. So I think that's important, how people think, that your message is really relevant to them.
And look, if you just stay in front of them long enough, run the retargeting, run, I use viral marketing just for ease of purpose, run the video messages to them. Look, you will get ahead. It's just right now with inventory levels so low and so tight, you have to focus on unclogging that, because it doesn't matter if you generate all these buyers and you've got buyers that are ready to go right now but have no place to put them. Then you run the risk, if you don't do the proper follow-up on that, you run the risk of losing all that hard work you did, right? There's a hole in your bucket if you're going only after buyers.
Yeah.
Right? Because you can't place them, and they're going to slip away, they're going to get frustrated, and now you've got that loss of, you've got zero return. In fact, you're losing money. So right. I would be putting my time, energy, and focus on seller lead generation, tighten it up, get into the NAEA, the Certified Home Sale Advisor program, start utilizing those tools, right? And then get, even with Nick Krim and his content creation stuff, and start putting that in front of the homeowners, right?
Yeah.
That easy. I mean, dude, if you do that and you do an open house, how many people would come through an open house right now?
Yeah. Crazy.
Yep.
It's crazy. And, I really think you have to adopt that mindset, that mentality that, listing first, right? And that's a stretch for some people. And so, if it's a confidence thing, everything that Nick just shared with you, get into the CHSA, go through the training, watch the bootcamp videos again and again, hit up somebody, role play, go through the process, and really build that confidence. But anything and everything, the riddle that we're all trying to solve is the seller lead gen, riddle. But that's where your time, energy, and effort has to be. It just has to be our thinking. So let's shift a little bit here from a market perspective. With what do you think is going to happen with agent count? As you look at more agents than inventory. Most dues are, they'll cut you off here at the end of January or end of February. What are you thinking, man? Or what are you hearing? What are you seeing with agents?
I'm already feeling it and seeing it, and the people that I've been following with for agent wise is that I've seen more people get out than stay in, right? And look, the majority of agents don't study the market anyway, which I don't understand. I mean, just go read your local news. It's all in there anyway. Like I just printed something from the Dallas Morning News. New forecast, DFW home sales and prices are headed higher in 2021. Okay. So what does that mean? All right. Right now you're not making any money. You're probably suffering. If you just got in, you're new, right? And you don't have enough money, go get a second job. I'm not seeing agents willing to put in the effort to succeed, and they're not pouring into their personal and business development. So I see that we lose. I see that we have a negative growth, and at least we lose agents. We're going to have a lot more coming in just because they're here. People, right? That lagging indicator where they're hearing how great the market is, and everyone gets in thinking it's easy money. So I think we're probably at a wash in terms of agent count. In terms of we lose about the same that we gain. Nick shared something in there. Hopefully all of you guys listening in is a huge takeaway, is that you've got to study the market. You've got to position yourself as the go-to authority on what's happening, real estate in your market.
It was one of our competitive advantages in the Lawton market is that, and, truth be told, Jay did it out of a necessity, being such a young kid coming in that, they would, oh, that's sweet, man. Good, good for you, go. But until, that he could say, hey, how's real estate? How's the market? And then he could just spit what's going on, just like you're sharing. Like, guys, that's a huge takeaway that what Nick just gave you is that you've got to study the market. You've got to be a student. You've got to then be the authority in position and be able to articulate and get that out. We set up our market statistics, went to the group of influencers back in 2010, and it's still to this day, every week goes to the influencers in the marketplace. Like, you could use that as huge leverage and, creating that authority. We're just trying to get mind share, and, being a student, being an authority of the market allows you to do that.
100%. I think, and at the end of the day, you got to get comfortable. Like, we can't just rely on our sphere. That was one thing in 2007 when I went full time in this business, and I saw people I respected in 2008 start losing their homes and fall behind on their cars were getting repoed. I said, I analyzed why that happened. They were making so much money, and it's because they just relied too much on their sphere and didn't have enough lead source buckets coming through. So, it's, I do the podcast, I do videos and lives. In the beginning, I didn't like that shit. I hated it, right? That's not my personality style. But in order to be the expert, what does everyone want? We're trying to buy their attention and their time. And it's got to be something valuable. So, to be that go-to perceived expert, if you know the stats and how to put that into a story better than anyone else, you're going to win. You're going to start taking market share over even these, the dinosaur agents who are not keeping up.
Yeah, that's gold. Yeah, it is, man. It's just those things that we've got to do, creating the content. And, I think it's one of the highest leveraged activities for you as the leader of any organization to be able to do that on a consistent basis, being able to communicate that.
100%. And then if you're not an expert, get with people. Look, we're all utilizing CREM content and everything else, right? We've got amazing people in this group. Get plugged in and hell, interview them. Right? Do the podcast. I just did a podcast with a group in Canada. And then you go take that and send that out to your database. What better, if you're being interviewed, what better way to show you that you're the expert authority when you're getting interviewed by other real estate agents? Yeah.
Yeah. 100%. I mean, it's just that borrowed authority. And I would say, a lot of folks here in the group, they don't know who their upline is. And, understanding that they have a financial incentive that you succeed in this model. And so, you should know who you're 7 levels up, and you need to make sure that if they're doing some type of content that you're getting them on, helping you, collaborate and create that content. It's so key. So being able to use that borrowed authority, and I think it's where a lot of people, Nick, too, they get hung up is that they're like, oh shit, I got to create this. Oh man, how, right? No, that's the wrong question. Who can I get on the show that can articulate and drop value, and all I have to do is ask questions? It's not hard.
It's the same. Look at it this way. It's the same way of you're going to start seeing me promote out that I had Flip This House star Armando Montalongo on, and does that even though he's the star and he comes off as the expert, it elevates my level within our the database that I'm sending out to, right? Whether that's real estate agents, whether that's direct to consumers. It's the same way that if you were to on this, right, it elevates you as that perceived real estate coach. It's the same thing that we could be doing. I would have you on and just start talking about, the stats, and then I'd send that out and say, this is why you want to sell with us, is we know this market better than anybody else. Here's a little clip of me interviewing, real estate expert John Kitchens, and I would just take a little blurb. No one wants to watch the whole thing. Just take and cut up the clips.
Such gold. I want to, one last little thing before we kind of wrap up for today. But what what from a leadership perspective, right? Because, you have, a team organization, and, there's a lot of folks listening in, same situation. Like, how are you navigating the waters? What are you doing as a leader that others are not, that they should?
I mean, what I saw during shelter in place, I saw leaders sheltering and not putting time and energy and pouring into their group, right? I saw them pull back, and the speed of the leader is the speed of the pack. And, we put our heads down and went to work during that time. And right now, what I'm doing is I'm transparent with my group, right? Maybe sometimes too transparent of what we're doing, where I let them know, like, look, guys, this is, on our team calls, I say, you're going to wish that you would have listened to me 90 days from now if you are not doing what you need to do. If you're just sitting on your ass, if you're not making your calls, if you're not doing your follow-ups, you're going to wish in 90 days when you come to me and you're struggling, maybe you're hurting financially, I'm going to go back and we're going to review it, right? And then my job as a leader is to put them in winning positions. That is winning lead generation positions. That is staying up with, putting technology tools that are simple to implement and easy to help their conversions. Everything's all about conversions and at-bats. That to me is the leader. And then I educate my agents on these stats, and I pour it into them and hammer it into them, on a daily, weekly basis.
Man, that's fantastic. And that's why you guys are having the best year ever. Right.
That's right. Yeah.
And it's those things. I remember chatting with, at the beginning of the pandemic with Blake Sloan, and we were talking about that, the government ain't going to pull you out of this. Nobody's going to pull you out of this. You have to lead your way out. You have to lead yourself. You have to lead your team. And that's the only way you're going to pull up out of this. And I just remember how powerful having that conversation with him, what it was. And that's what I've seen this year. Those that have stepped up and led themselves and their teams out of this are having the best years of their real estate career. It's fascinating to see.
Now, if the inventory levels could help us out, we would have a much better. if these damn sellers would get off the fence, it would be much better. So, yeah. I mean, here's the thing. Just think of it this way: if you were putting your head down, leading and pouring into your people, how much more confidence would they have? How much more confidence would you have in your team? How much more confidence would you have as a leader that you could go attract more people and show that you've got a proven, repeatable system that will continue to build their book of business? It's not about Nick Good. It's about my agents. If they are building their business and they're staying consistent, with consistent growth, that's all that matters at the end of the day, right? It's not me. It's them. It's them pushing the ball forward. I'm just help directing them where to go.
It's absolute gold, brother. Absolute gold. Sheriff, everybody kind of jumped in. Just make sure, I want to, all of you guys listening in, make sure you're subscribed to Nick's podcast. It's fire every time. And then also, Nick, what's kind of the best ways for people to connect with you?
So the podcast is the only real estate podcast worth listening to. I'll drop a link in the comments when I go back to this. It's a Facebook Live show that also then we stream out to iTunes and Spotify and everything else. Go subscribe now, because I'm going to tell you the guests that we have coming up in January are absolute. Holy shit, it's fire. Like we're elevating the game. Like, I'm so excited that these people are agreeing to come on to that. So the only real estate podcast worth listening to. And then if you want to connect with me or chat or send us a referral in the Dallas-Fort Worth, Texas area, as well as in Houston, have agents in the Houston area, go to nickgood.work, and then let's just connect and let me know how I can help you. I'm all about making sure that we're continuing to better our Honey Badger group, because it's about taking market share and having the best EXP group out there.
Yeah, 100%. And brother, I appreciate you, man. Amazing call, adding tons and tons of value, really being that true expert mentor, for not only your organization, but for the entire Honey Badger community. For all of you guys listening in, man, make sure you give Nick some love. Go subscribe to the podcast. And, if If you have any other questions or thoughts, feel free to reach out. And man, I can't wait to see you guys on the next episode. Thanks, Nick.
Thanks, brother. Appreciate you, man.
Got it, bro.